Hello everybody and welcome to yet another episode of the Unathletic, where two very unathletic men today are going to roll back the years and talk about the legends of yesteryear. So this is a kind of series we're thinking of starting where we explore the greatest teams of each football decade. We thought the 80s would be a good place to start. 70s had some really excellent players as well. But at 70s, I think it'll be just a history lesson because we don't know many of those players.
I hope it isn't a history lesson now.
Yes. So we're going to start with the 80s, but if you're interested, we'll do 90s, 2000s, so on and so forth. Joining me today is Po, who's come with his
usual notes.
The notes completely decked out. I don't know what to expect from this.
It's minimal. It's got bare minimum data on it, so I think should be fine.
Like for the camera, we should say it's very well researched and yeah.
That's not our forte though, but okay. Just so that the listeners know.
Okay, yeah. Thanks for undermining us before the episode starts.
Okay, I don't want to go on that
tangent. Okay, no, we promise there's going to be a lot of great information for you. So, before we get started, Po, about talking about each of the teams, what I'd like to start with is just setting a backdrop of what football really was like in the 80s. Now, people have this impression, which is true, where football was very physical back in the day. And I'd like to describe it a little bit differently. I think there are a lot of conditions which you put into effect, as well as the pitch conditions. The pitches were mostly very muddy in nature. So it was very difficult to play the kind of positional, free-flowing pass, keep the possession as much as possible. It was very difficult to play this. And I mean, maybe the best stadiums in the world had the facilities so you could play like that, but you would not be playing in those stadiums week in, week out.
Not everybody could.
Not everybody could. So, yes, it was physical, but there was also a lot more passion on the pitch because the technical brilliance couldn't shine through unless you were at the very, very top of your game. So what you could do is give that extra 10%, go into those crunching challenges, be extra physical, and that's kind of where the impression comes from. Now, in the 80s, it was dominated in the European landscape by two countries, most of all. One being England and one being Italy. Now, Italy, it seems, has a golden generation almost every decade, but the 80s were an especially very, very good time for the Italians, and Po will get into the legendary Saki's team, the AC Milan team, but also Liverpool were really great. Germany, it was kind of boring. Bayern Munich were doing their thing. I mean, that's what they always do. But Bayern Munich were doing their thing. Hamburg also had a decent team to the 80s. The Spanish teams were not doing well at all. I mean, Real Madrid dominated most of the 80s with Atletico Madrid and Barcelona sharing a few titles between them. But mostly domestically, it was dominated by Real Madrid. And they never could win any European competition, in fact, in the 80s. But that then brings us to the team which was, I think we can say, pretty comfortably the most dominant team in the 80s, which is the Liverpool team. Now, Po, I'm going to hand the floor over to you.
So we're going to talk about just to define the period, it's going to be between 79-80 season to the 89-90 season. So the 11-year period.
Yeah. A decade is very, it's famously measured by 11-year periods.
I mean, okay, that's why I had to explain.
No, we had to fit it in. Yeah.
No, there's a lot of backstory behind this also, which we can't capture in this decade. So Liverpool's this particular dominance started all the way back in the 60s. Like, at least the groundwork to it was laid down in the 60s, which I'll get to later. But coming to this period, in this span of time that I've mentioned, they played a total of 452 games. They won 256, drew 121 and lost only 75.
Wow.
They scored 852 goals in this period and conceded only 380.
Wow.
So they were very dominant. And this is a team that had been recently Bill Shankly, who was a very famous manager for Liverpool, who won titles for them. He decided to retire, and then comes in our man here, what often considered as one of the greatest managers of all time in contention is Bob Paisley.
He was the assistant manager to Bill Shankly.
So between the 1974 to 83 is when Paisley managed.
Okay.
He won 6 league titles, 3 European Cups, which is the Champions League as we know it today.
Yeah.
3 league cups on top of that. So he's got immense credentials. In a span of 9 years, he's won 19 trophies. So that's
that's an incredible record. Yeah.
So in this particular period, though, we're not going to talk about the lifespan of Bob Paisley as a Liverpool manager. We're talking about this 10-year period. In this period, 7 league title wins.
7 in the decade.
Yeah, in the 11 years.
Wow.
So
I mean, when we grew up, Liverpool were always that team that they're living in the past and all of that. But when you look at the past, you're like, damn, okay, this is insane.
And this is where it ends, though. But like the 7th one is the last one.
They won all the way.
In 89-90, and after which 38 years later is when they won the title again. So this was truly an era of dominance, but ended abruptly.
So wait, I mean, I'm just trying to convert that into United terms. So that would be then we win at 2050 next, because we won at 2012. Okay, I'm ready. I'm ready. Just 25 years away.
I don't know what to say to that.
It's okay.
How am I supposed to react? I mean, so this team is often cited as one of the most dominant football teams. I mean, the credentials are there for them. They were consistent in evolving their tactics and their ability to rebuild squads. It was not something to smirk at, because they were consistently able to get in new blood as well as make them into legends.
So who were some of the legends of this period?
So there's this, along with Bob Paisley, who's also a Scottish manager, he got on 3 Scots in the year 1977.
Okay.
Alan Hansen, Ian Rush, and he got in Graham Souness, oh God. Kenny Dalglish, and Alan Hansen. So these 3 Scotsmen went on to win 3 consecutive, not consecutive, but 3 European Cups in that span also. And they're to this day legends of Liverpool Football Club.
And I think Kenny Dalglish even took charge of Liverpool in the late 80s, right? Or
it was the last year, the 89-90. Yeah. He won the title then, and then he couldn't win any.
It's so rare to find, that kind of success where after you retire, pretty close to that itself, you take charge of the team and then you.
So it's sort of the Liverpool way, actually. It's making themselves self-sufficient in terms of coaching ability, and that backroom staff being empowered enough that they're the ones who take up the roles immediately. So the next manager comes from within the institution. They know how to play in a certain set way. They've been through the rankings in terms of the academies as well, and they've also played for Liverpool, some of them.
That's really interesting, because you think of the teams of the past, and maybe in the present, maybe Real Madrid and Barcelona still kind of follow this, and some Italian teams as well. But in the past, when you had Real Madrid, Barcelona, Ajax, a lot of the Italian teams as well, who had this model that we have a very definitive football culture, and only people who are part of that culture can then lead this team on to greater success.
So Liverpool actually practiced that to a great extent. So this structure and organizational changes were set in the 60s and 70s also, and especially during the previous Bill Shankly's period. So all of these principles, and this is the same backroom staff that's worked with them, by the way. So it just carried on forward. Bob Paisley worked with him. The next manager, Joe Fagan, even he worked with him. And Bill Shaw and Kenny Dalglish also played under him, and he ended up as a manager there. So just to get back to this particular period where Bob Paisley was the manager and he was the most successful in this term, his style was a sort of a pass and move style. Give the ball, run, make the run. And the other person finds you over there. So this emphasized his purposeful possession and quick passing. There was sort of a collective movement involved. All 11 players had to participate in attack and defense. Sort of like a total football.
We use that term too much.
But I mean, Cruyff.
He was the most influential manager.
His influence is there, steeped through. So in his the ethos in his own words is, it's not about the long ball or the short ball. It's about the right ball. So he sort of tuned his team to not just play long or to play out from the back. He wanted to mix and match and see what works best for that particular situation and employ that. So he got them adjusted to all sorts of scenarios. So there was no surprise for them on the pitch as well. So as I said, he signed these 3 players and never looked back after it. All these players had to support in both attack and defense, and their fullbacks also. It's surprising for that particular age, Akshat, because normally you would associate fullbacks as people who just have to guard that particular corner and not venture out too far ahead. But he actually empowered them to go on the outside, make overlapping runs, so that they could offer extra width, pull their man aside, and put in crosses for their wingers as well as their strikers.
Yeah, and for at that time and even before that, football was not really played like that. In fact, you would have your centre backs actually progress a little bit further up the pitch rather than your full backs. So there was this term in football, a position which doesn't really exist now, called centre halves, which was very popular in the 60s and 70s, and it kind of continued a little bit in the 80s, and that role changed into something called libero role, which I will get back to you. That's a small nugget which I'll get back to. But I mean, that's something which is truly innovative.
I mean, the Italian school also has the terminologies, different terminologies with the same meaning. So, I mean, you can see through this series, you can see the progressing of football tactics as a whole also, I'd say, because as we go on through the decades, we learn more and more of how these tactics evolved into what we're seeing now in the modern age.
There's a very clear kind of timeline between how things got to the way they are, and it's really interesting, and hopefully we can express some of that in some of these decades videos.
I mean, I also explained that this particular team was a possession-based team also, but surprisingly, they were very adaptable in terms of they could play for counter-attacks, they could go direct also, and he sort of prepared the team in such a fashion that they were prepared for every scenario that the opponent had to have when they threw at them. And all of this culture, just to give you some backdrop information, came from this specific thing that Liverpool used to do. It's called the boot room. Okay. So the boot room, for the best part of 4 decades. It started in the 60s and until 90s it continued. The most important room at Anfield, this was considered, and you would think it's some big room, fancy room, full teched out. No.
Smelly boots.
It's a small, dingy broom cupboard. Under the main stand. You can't even see it from your overview, aerial view of the stadium. It's somewhere tucked underneath the main stands. So 6 of Liverpool's greatest minds. So you would associate these people as the assistant coaches who were working under Bill Shankly and subsequent managers also. These guys were Joe Fagan, who also became a manager after Paisley, Bob Paisley himself, Ronnie Moran, Roy Evans, Tom Saunders, and Ruben Bennett. These 6 individuals, what they've done is, this started because Joe Fagan, he struck a deal with a person who was exporting Guinness, and he used to give him crates of Guinness. He's gone in, he started storing it.
I love 80s football, man.
He started storing these crates in the boat room. It was a little boat room, that's where the name came from. So he started taking that, and also because that exporter, he has a club also, I forgot the name, Runken Works team, so they use Pulse facility. So it's a give and take sort of a relationship.
It's a barter system, you let us train, we'll give you beer.
And so usually what happens is after training and after coaching, these assistant coaches would just end up in that room just to get a beer. They'd sit there for hours and hours together with a chalk and a board and talk about tactics, talk about players.
Kind of similar to what we're doing over here.
So the room consisted of a rickety table, plastic chair, and a carpet, and one other additional thing was a calendar on the wall, which after a while, the year went on and the calendar was of no use, they started clipping nude models' photos and putting it on the wall over there. It's the 80s, guys.
Motivation.
Motivation. And so this is not just they started using it in such a way that they did not just use it for themselves. There was a small cabinet also on one side where they kept one whiskey bottle. That was reserved only for Sunday post game, where they'd call the opposition manager and the coaches, offer them a drink, get them into the room, and somehow they'd end up talking for hours together, making the opposite manager spill beans about his tactics, his players, and also Paisley said that...
Get them drunk and start talking.
It's like... Crazy. Paisley came out and said that, see, I know my players, I know them from a certain perspective, I see them every single day. But I'd like to get outside opinion. What other managers think about my players and how they play and what they can improve.
That's amazing, man.
So he started these sessions which went on for decades together until the 90s. And this is where that culture of Liverpool way began, because they're sort of looking back at their own tactics, self-correcting their mistakes through other eyes, as well as their discussions on a daily basis.
That's amazing, yeah.
So this is sort of the way the boot room was a defining centerpiece of the Liverpool way.
So Sir Alex also used to do this, where he used to invite the opposition manager, not every game, but he used to invite them for like a bottle of wine to share like a glass or two after games. If they're around the Manchester area, they can stay over there. And I thought that, oh wow, it's what a nice, respectful way to build camaraderie in the
There are
Manchester
ulterior motives there.
And now you've completely changed my perspective on that. There's shady fucking tactics, bro, used by these.
It has to be.
Nice, man, nice. So, now moving on from Liverpool, I want to talk about what I consider the most dominant country in international football around this time. Now, in this time, of course, probably if you have to say which was the single best team, you would have to give it to Argentina, which was led by Diego Maradona in the 1986 World Cup. But if you take a step back and look across the decade, you have to think of Germany or West Germany at the time. So, West Germany were the 1980 Euros winners. Then they reached the FIFA World Cup finals 3 times in a row. In 82, in 86 and 90. 82 they lost, 86 they lost to the Diego Maradona side, and in the 90s they eventually won in a grudge match, a revenge match against Argentina in the finals. So now in 1982 when they reached the finals, that entire tournament happened in Spain. But that World Cup...
So there's actual history between, in the finals, Germany as it was back then versus Argentina.
Yeah.
That came down to 2014 also.
Correct. It was the third time they had met each other in the finals, and it was one apiece at that particular point of time. Now, starting in 82, like that World Cup happened in Spain, and it was not really a great World Cup. It was remembered for the wrong reasons, because at that time, football hooliganism was at its highest, right? So these bunch of ultras would go and they'd get drunk and they'd trash every stadium they'd go to. They'd get into fights with fans. That would spill out in terms of passion on the pitch as well. Very violent, fouls.
Football games, yeah.
Yes. So after this, actually, FIFA had to change the rules of the tournament for the next World Cup.
Okay.
Because in 82, Maradona in the semi-finals was fouled incessantly. Like to the point where every single time he got the ball almost, they would just foul him. And the persistent fouling yellow card rule actually the origin from that rule was found in the 82 World Cup. Now, after the 82 World Cup, they didn't win that. And in the 84 Euros, they lost very early. So at that point of time, when they got out in the first round, they decided to go for someone who was established, a name which would unify all of Germany. And that was none other than Franz Beckenbauer. So coming back to the libero rule in football, I explained how centre backs were actually centre halves who used to progress into midfield pretty much all the time. That was a role which was pretty much perfected and almost invented by Franz Beckenbauer when he was playing. He was called the Kaiser, which means the Emperor, which is one of the coolest fucking nicknames you could ever have.
Germany, man. Like, they come up with these crazy ass names.
Yeah. So, in 1986, which was his first major tournament as the boss, first of all, 1986 World Cup is till date one of the most iconic tournaments of all time. I can have a whole episode on this, but just a few things like the Hand of God goal and the goal of the century against England, Maradona, happened in that same game. In that tournament, the Mexican wave also made its origin.
Wow, okay.
So, next time you go for an IPL match and you hear and then everyone does this, that happened in 1986 World Cup for the first time. The finals between Germany and Argentina was an absolute thriller. And in fact, until the recent World Cup finals, it was considered the best World Cup final of all time.
Okay.
So, Argentina actually went 2-0 up by the 55th minute. And just after that, I keep messing up his name. Karl-Heinz Rummenigge. The guy who is
He's there still at Bayern.
The Bayern, yeah. The Bayern top boss.
Head honcho,
yeah. Director of football, whatever his role is. He pulled one back and Germany equalized in the 74th minute. And then just 7 minutes before the clock ran out, Diego Maradona played in Mr. Jorge Burruchaga for the winner. And that is how it was kind of a heartbreak for Germany at that point of time. Then in the 1990 World Cup, which was in Italy, that was the grudge match. Now, everything which was good about the 1986 World Cup, the complete opposite happened in Italy. It is considered the worst World Cup of all time. Only 2.21 goals per game, which is the worst even till this date. And every team had decided that being ultra defensive gives you the best potential chances to qualify. So, throughout the group stage, throughout the knockout tournaments, knockout stages, every team played very defensively. To some aspect,
even that thought is still considered like the thumb rule usually in tournament football, right? Ideally, you go out being defensive, being organized, being structured, because you don't have much time to train. You can at least do that aspect of your team and be tied, not letting slip in goals.
But the problem is that, see, now at least the big teams will go for it. That time, even the apart from Germany and the hosts Italy, nobody really attacked. So, Argentina were ravished by injuries, okay? So, they decided to be very defensive. They reached the finals, scoring only 5 goals in the entire tournament. Which till
5 goals?
In the entire, I don't think that record will ever be broken. I don't think it's even possible, to be honest, right? So, after this World Cup, they had to change the back pass rule, where you could, pass it back. And for the keeper. And the second one is that they changed the group stage matches where every win will give you 3 points instead of 2.
Oh, okay.
Because then attacking
a wider difference.
Yeah, it's
more incentive for you to go out for the win.
Yeah. So in this tournament, now Germany were a team which were more built on, again, solid structure, but very potent going forward and in counter-attacking play. Up front, they had 2 very good strikers in Voller and Jürgen Klinsmann. And of course, Matthias Lothar, I'm messing up his name again, but he was one of the influential players in this thing. So in the semis, they faced England, who were being led by Gary Lineker, who was he was the top scorer of the tournament. It finished 1-1. It went to extra time, where Jürgen Klinsmann, both teams hit the post, and Klinsmann missed 2 sitters. And he didn't take a penalty. So he was watching the penalty shootout. And he said that penalty shootout, I have never felt that distressed in my entire life, knowing that I might have let my entire country down. Eventually, they won. It went to the finals. It was a horrible game of football. Argentina had 2 men sent off in the second half, and Germany ended up winning 1-0. And that was the first time where no team had scored in the World Cup final. Till then, every finalist in the finals actually scored 1 goal. Argentina did not score a single goal. And that was what led to them winning.
For the first time, it's a clean sheet.
Yeah, I know. But then Franz Beckenbauer, through that, became the third manager in football history, who have won the World Cup both as a player and as a manager, joining Didier Deschamps and one Brazilian guy whose name I will find. You can continue. Mario Zagallo. So, yeah, I mean, it's amazing for a team to reach those many finals over a consistency of like 10 years. The Euros, the World Cup 3 times in a row, and winning the Euros as well. It's an incredible record. And the 1990 was the last time West Germany appeared. Yeah, because
I was just going to ask you that. When did they become
German? The Berlin Wall was torn down in 89, and the unification happened in 90, a few months after the tournament. So there was a lot of pride when it came to this tournament.
I mean, they managed to take it home, so
yep.
Kudos to them. So the next team that I want to touch upon, and the final team, I hope, in this, I'm not wrong, but AC Milan is the team that we want to talk about, because in the latter half of the 80s, they have truly transformed the way and revolutionized the way football is played in that country as well as around the continent. They were without a trophy since winning their 10th Scudetto in 1979. So this is, I think, around 87. Okay, this context. So around 8 years they haven't won anything.
Yeah.
Silvio Berlusconi takes over the club, 1986. It's synonymous, winning is synonymous with him, but yeah, in that period
So
at least.
Berlusconi, by the way, is an Italian politician who ended up becoming the prime minister or president or whatever they have, and is known for his, let's just say, his taste in women, young ones who tend to sell their bodies.
Okay. So he takes over as the president in 1986.
And he used to reward players with them, by the way. But yeah, continue.
Okay. That's
Bonga Bonga parties, I think that's what they're called. You can do the research yourself.
okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for that information.
Yeah,
actually.
I mean, it's just sitting here, bro.
So he also managed to get on relatively unknown Arrigo Sacchi.
Yeah.
So to give you some backdrop,
Hype him up, bro.
the man, he could not get past amateur football. Again, if you refer our Jose versus Pep episode, you will get to know that some managers who can't make it as footballers themselves end up as the best managers out there. Sacchi is also one of such from that sector, because he knew around amateur and football level that he couldn't make it professional. So he decided it was a choice for him at that point.
Mm-hmm.
His father owned a shoe company.
Okay.
So either become a shoe salesman or be without a professional contract.
Yeah, very equivalent skills.
Yeah.
of
So
like
so
shoe
he goes
salesman.
for being a shoe salesman and daddy pressure. So
Yeah.
7-8 years down the line, when he turns 26, around that time he gets an opportunity to be an assistant coach, and at that time he's also the director of the company itself. Okay?
Oh.
So he's drawing a lucrative salary,
Climbed up the
like
ladder.
month on month nepotism. So
Yeah.
month on month he's drawing nice money. So he has to either choose that or become an assistant coach, and he chooses to be an assistant coach. He goes up the ranks, up the leagues also, and I think finally he comes to Fiorentina, where he's an assistant coach, and then Parma takes him on as their manager. Berlusconi sees the way he plays, likes him, and then wants him for his Milan side.
Yeah.
He wants to revolutionize the way they play, because at that point it's Italian league primarily used liberos.
Yes.
Therefore, the system of catenaccio was prevalent.
Catenaccio, for the listeners, is a more ultra defensive, solid backline, solid banks of your defense and midfield. Soak up the pressure. That is what Catenaccio means, and that was the prevalent style of football, which in fact in the early 80s Juventus were the dominant team of the decade, and Catenaccio is how they built the football identity at the time.
So everyone else in that country played in a certain way, and Sacchi did not see that his ideas and philosophies did not align for that. He wanted to attack and defend at the same time, and he wanted to defend while attacking. So it was a highly attacking style of football that he introduced to this country, who were sort of averse to attacking.
Yeah, and just like to properly give, like, you hear of managers who are influential in the way, not just that they win trophies, but in the way that they influence football for generations to come, right? So the number one name which you hear in this category is Cruyff, of course, because he literally changed the way football is played forever. But if you have to think of who the next name would be, Sacchi would definitely be there. Definitely in the top 3 most influential managers of all time, because what Poe said about defending while attacking, these concepts which we take for granted today did not exist in the early days, but things like high pressing, things like trying to win the ball up the pitch, moving the defensive line forward and defending high up the pitch, these things were completely brought about by this tactical revolution which Sacchi brought out in Milan.
So he took on charge in the summer of 87, okay? Along with him came 2 Dutchmen.
Yes.
Marco van Basten and Ruud Gullit.
Like, just casual names in football,
The next year, he goes on to sign, I forgot his name. Come on, the striker.
Rijkaard.
Yes. Like, not striker, but Rijkaard.
Yes.
So these trio of Dutchmen and Sacchi together revolutionized the team completely in the way they play. So everyone in the Italian league used to play in a certain formation, and he comes on and wants to play 4-4-2.
Correct.
And he has certain principles that he wants his team to align to. Never in any game state is there supposed to be more than 15 to 20 meters of gap between the lines. So the first bank of 4 and the next bank of 4 and the bank of 2 after, there's supposed to be only 15 to 20 meters gap in between those two at all times.
Yeah.
And this requires a level of coordination that had not been seen till date until the 80s.
Yeah.
And he makes his team aligned to these principles and values in play. And you need an excellent defensive line also
Of
to
course.
play. So you have the names with you, don't you?
I have a few of the names of the entire team, right? But I want to bring about put one more name out there. Carlo Ancelotti was part of this team. This not very well-known footballer called Paolo Maldini was part of this team, and Baresi was also part of this backline which you're talking about, which is one of the greatest Italian defenses of all time.
So they were able to coordinate themselves to such an extent that these guys sprung offside traps. You know, when people talk about offside traps and how it's supposed to be, they're referring to this team because. The level of coordination required to achieve that and to always push forward. They used to never take a step back, even though an attacker is trying to run at them directly. Mm-hmm. They'll see another man making the run and they'll immediately step up. All four of them in tune to perfection. Because one person messes up
and
over
there,
it's done. The whole thing is your defensive line is broken, right? And you're 2v1 and you're going to concede a goal at that point.
Yeah.
So.
I think that level of coordination is very rare even in today's teams. There are very few teams who play good offside trap. A lot of teams play up the pitch to press, but then they require, physical, athletic centre backs and full backs to go and recover that space rather than playing an out and out kind of offside trap kind of football. So yeah,
it's a very risk and reward. There's a fine line that you need to walk on.
Yeah, but also, think about how revolutionary it would have been, right? As an opposition manager, you have certain ways you think you want to play, and especially back in the day, it's like counter-attacking football, long ball, long ball, long ball. Every time you hit a long ball, that guy's raising his flag on the side over there. You're like, what do I do over here, right?
Sarri and Conte, both of them, I think, should draw their ideologies from a certain extent from what they saw Saki do back then.
Right.
Their principles are also aligned to it. So in his first season, he won the Serie A after a 8-year wait. Since 1979, they hadn't won it. So in 1987, they won it. And in the following years, they won back-to-back European Cups.
Wow.
He managed them only for 5-year period, by the way. Okay.
Uh-huh.
So he's managed to gain this level of fame and recognition in just that short span of time.
Yeah.
He also won the Supercoppa Italiana in 88. The European Super Cups that came with the European Cups, the next game after. He won it in 89 and 90, as well as the Intercontinental Cups. So, again, 2 years in a row, 89 and 90. He'd call it collective intelligence. He demanded, his terminology for the way his ideology and philosophy was called collective intelligence. 11 active players in every moment of the game, both in defense and attack. Sort of very similar to Liverpool's team also.
Yeah.
Again, Cruyff. So there's a sort of a very weird way that I think now if you put it on Amazon Prime documentary or something, you would call the man Cuckoo and you'd call him a certain Spanish name. Okay. But back then he'd stage full matches training without the ball.
Without the ball.
Full 11v11, full game without the ball. He'd tell players where the imaginary ball was so they could respond and position themselves accordingly to the location of the ball that he's pointing to, which does not exist.
So what's very interesting is that just this last week there was some press conference where it was revealed that Ruben Amorim is actually training the Manchester United team in the exact same way, where he is there on the pitch with them and he'll say, okay, the ball's coming in from here.
Yep.
And he will, if players are not moving the exact position, he'll step onto the pitch, hold them, move them 2 meters this side or 2 meters that side, so they know exactly where to be. So, this is 40 years ago,
yes.
Right? It's incredible that the game was refined so much.
He's playing the full 90 without a ball. He's training them and he's getting everyone to agree to this sort of training methodology. I'd call him mental if I was on the pitch, but luckily I wasn't. So, so again, as I said, he played in a 4-4-2. He employed zonal marking, and the prime principle was the distance between the two lines. Also, in the words of Cat, just to end the Milan Glaze, I just want to paraphrase some Carlo Ancelotti, okay? So he said, Arrigo completely changed Italian football, the philosophy, the training methods, the intensity, the tactics. Italian team used to focus on defending. We defended by attacking and pressing.
Yeah.
So he, this was sort of a revolution in the sense that Milan's dominance did not end after.
Yes.
It continued until the 2000s also, with Carlo also winning massive number of trophies.
Yeah, and he actually, what happened was that him and Berlusconi, they got into a fight which led to him getting sacked. And then Fabio Capello, another manager who...
He was very successful as well.
He just continued the same way which they were playing, and he got success into the 90s as well.
On the flip side, Saki tried other endeavors and he was never as successful as he was during this particular time period.
But it's amazing that you said just 5 years, and even till date people talk about the influence which he has. So yeah,
it's commendable. Also, just to add, I know it's completely out of context because I missed telling this in the Liverpool part of our section. The boot room period that I was talking about.
Yeah.
So that led to 29 trophies when the boot room was active.
Okay.
So the influence of that particular segment was massive.
So any teams who are redoing their stadium and
look at Harry Potter, find a cupboard under the stairs.
Yes, keep one boot room there somewhere, and you can just get managers drunk and take all their deepest, darkest secrets.
So Akshat, I believe you have a story time.
Yes, there's a story time. It's a small story time related to something which we already spoke about. This is the changes in rules in football. I'm finding a lot of these stories recently, and it's quite interesting. So I spoke about the 86 World Cup and the 82 World Cup, right? Now, in the 82 World Cup, there was a very major rule change which happened, which is followed to this date in World Cups. And it was due to one match in particular in the group stage between Germany and West Germany and Austria. So what happened is this group had West Germany, or Algeria, Chile, and Austria. Okay. Now Chile, of course, were not at all fancied, so they lost all of their games. But the first match was an absolute shock between Algeria and Germany, where Algeria actually beated Germany 3-2. They lost to Austria, and then they won their final game against Chile, so they were on 4 points.
Okay. And I think I know where this is going.
Germany had beat Chile, they were on 2 points, and Austria had already beat Algeria and Chile, and they were on 4 points. Okay. Now, because it was just 2 points per win, there was a very strong possibility if Germany beat Austria that all teams would be on 4 points. And who goes through is the team who has the highest goal difference. Now, the issue is that the Algeria and Chile match happened one day before the Germany and Algeria match. So, Germany, in that match against Austria, they scored first and they went into halftime leading 1-0. At that particular point of time, both Germany and Austria were going through. So, it was not in either of their best interests to play any kind of football because A, it could lead to them getting knocked out of the tournament, or B, it could lead to injuries. So, the rest of that match was played in the most boring defensive back pass kind of football you can ever see possible. In the actual game, the stadium, it was in Spain. So, a lot of Algerian fans were there in the stadium and they started chanting, horrible things at them. There was also one, I'm converting it from Spanish, but it basically converted into kiss the bride, now kiss the bride. Because they're like, you guys are just like in love with each other, you're not trying to play any football. Both the Austrian and German commentators, they both speak German, they actually told people who were listening in to change to some other match or change to something else because this is a disgrace to football.
It's not a competitive sport.
It's not a competitive. And that match actually was known later as the disgrace of Dihon. Or the Algerians also said that it is the annexation of Austria again after World War I because they won and then they just gave all of their territory away.
Wow.
The moment the West German team reached the hotel, they were pelted with raw eggs.
Deservedly.
Yeah. And all of other kinds of projectiles which were there, right? What happened is that the Algerian football actually lodged a formal protest, but FIFA, they said that no rules were broken, so our hands are tied, we can't do anything about this. And because of that, from the next World Cup onwards, the final group stage games of the same were played simultaneously. So the disgrace of Dihon is actually something which has led to the most exciting moments of World Cup history when you're there and all of these games are happening simultaneously.
It translates not just to the World Cup but to leagues as well.
Leagues as well.
The opening game as well as the last the final game
season,
usually played all at once.
Not the opening game though.
It used to be at some point.
It used to, isn't it? Yeah. But yeah, I mean I feel bad for Algeria, man. I mean, can you imagine?
That's sad. That's very sad.
But also, it must be said that Austria got knocked out the very next to the celebration of literally everyone in the world at that particular point of time.
They were hated.
Yeah. So, Paul, that brings us to the end of this episode. I wish we had spoken more on Maradona, man. Now that I think about it,
we should have. Maybe we can do
best players of the 80s.
Yeah, I mean, we can take certain different segments wherein we talk about players through the decades.
Absolutely. I mean, like Platini, Maradona, all of these guys were at the top of their game. Ian Rush also had a record of 32 goals in a single season, which was broken just recently, I think, by who? By Salah or Haaland, one of them.
One of them.
Yeah. Anyways, thanks everyone for listening and reaching the end of this episode. If you want more of these kind of videos, these nerdy kind of looks into the past of football, we'd be more than happy to provide them. As always, like, share, subscribe, help us grow the channel, and we'll see you in the next episode. See you. Bye-bye.